Thank you, everybody, for your time today. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn Educator Series. My name is Claudia Estrada Hickman, and I am a nurse education consultant with Kaplan, and I will be your moderator throughout today's presentation. Before we begin, I would like to highlight a few key features in the Zoom room. Feel free to post comments, thoughts, ideas, and questions in the chat area, which is visible to all attendees. We will make every effort to answer them. We will also have time for question and answer at the end of the presentation. We will be posting a link to the evaluation survey. Included in the survey is a certificate of attendance. We hope that you will take a few minutes of your time to complete the evaluation of today's session, as your feedback is very important to us. This session will be recorded, and the slides from today's presentation will be made available once the recording has been posted. You can access the slides and recording at the registration page approximately 48 hours after the live presentation. Our topic for today's webinar is Test Analysis Part 2, Make Analyzing Reports Easy. Our presenter for today's presentation is my colleague, Dawn Whitfield. Dawn is a nurse educator consultant for Kaplan with over 30 years of nursing experience in clinical practice and nursing education. She has held multiple nursing and management positions in acute care organizations and has also served as a faculty and director of nursing for undergraduate nursing programs. Dawn has been a nurse educator in both didactic and clinical settings for over 20 years. I will now turn your attention over to Dawn.
Thank you, Claudia. Welcome all of you. We appreciate you joining today's session. Today's webinar, as Claudia already shared, is building off of the session that she did earlier in April, and her title of that session was Item Analysis Part 1, The Test is Over, Now What? You have access to that recording that you can go back and view that at any point if you have not already listened to that. We also are building off a presentation that was done by one of our colleagues back in the fall of 23, and that was Item Analysis or Test Item Analysis Simplified. That recording is also available. I encourage you to take time to review those sessions as you also have access to this one. And again, I appreciate you joining. Today's session is about making sense of test analysis reports so that they work for you and not against you. We'll build on our understanding of test analysis by learning how to use reports to drive data-informed decisions. Whether you're grading a single exam or analyzing patterns across a curriculum, we will focus on how to identify student performance trends, flag at-risk students, and discover gaps in your teaching and curriculum. Our objectives for today are to identify student performance trends using test analysis reports. We're going to determine at-risk students and develop a remediation plan, and we'll examine some test data, of course, and curriculum improvement. These learning objectives align with both classroom and pragmatic outcomes as they serve a dual purpose, contributing to both the immediate goals of a specific course and the broader goals of an academic program. This goes beyond just grading. It's about enhancing student outcomes, grading curriculum decisions, and improving instruction. So why should we analyze test data? First of all, it boosts student outcomes. First and foremost, analyzing test data helps us directly improve student outcomes. When we know how students are improving, not just at the surface level, but in specific areas, we can offer targeted support, plan remediation, and help students focus on what really matters. It shifts us from grading to guiding. It also helps us to identify knowledge gaps. It allows us to pinpoint exactly where students are struggling. Sometimes students miss the same concept across multiple questions, which shows us there's a deeper gap in understanding. This insight is key to closing those gaps before they become long-term barriers to success. It can inform teaching strategies. So when we notice trends in missed questions, we have an opportunity to reflect on our own teaching. Maybe a concept needs to be taught differently, or maybe the way we are assessing it wasn't aligned with how it was taught. Analyzing test data lets us adapt and improve our instruction in real time. And lastly, it ensures test validity and reliability. Finally, from the quality assurance perspective, test analysis ensures our assessments are valid, meaning they measure what they're supposed to measure, and reliable, meaning they produce consistent results. This is vital not only for fairness to students, but also for accreditation and program integrity. As we think about identifying student performance, as faculty, we want to review individual and class scores. Start with high-level view. Look at how individual students performed and then zoom out to assess overall class performance. Excuse me. This helps us to spot outliers who may need targeted support and identify whether the whole class is meeting expectations. We also want to analyze question levels and trends. Then dig into specific questions. Are there items that a large number of students missed? If so, ask whether the content was unclear, poorly taught, or whether the item itself needs to be revised. Trends across categories help pinpoint content areas that need reteaching or reinforcement. Another component is to compare high versus low performers. This helps us to understand performance gaps. For example, did high performers miss the same questions as low performers? If not, it may indicate specific understanding of test design issues. And lastly, benchmark against learning objectives. We finally want to always tie test data back to your course objectives. If students miss questions related to critical objectives, that's a signal that we need to reevaluate instruction, pacing, or even curricular design. To reinforce what's been shared in previous sessions, item difficulty tells us the proportion of students who answered a test correctly. It's not a measure of how difficult we think the question is. It's based on the performance data. A value of 1.0 means every student got it right, while 0 means no one did. We aim for items with a difficulty index between 0.3 and 0.7. If a value is above 0.9, the item may be too easy and not useful for assessment. If it's below 0.3, it might be too difficult or might be poorly worded or misleading. Item discrimination tells us a question differentiates between strong and weak students. Ideally, high-performing students should get the item right more than low-performing students. A discrimination index above 0.2 is acceptable. The higher, the better. But if the value is low or negative, it suggests the question might be confusing, misleading, or not aligned with the objectives. It may even be the low-performing students are answering correctly more often than top performers. These two statistics, difficulty and discrimination, work together to help us decide which questions need to be revised or removed. So let's think about how to identify at-risk students. Consistently low test scores. When a student repeatedly underperforms across assessments, that's a strong indicator of academic risk. We need to examine whether it's a content issue, test-taking challenge, or something external. How about struggles in specific content areas? A student may be reasonably well overall, but consistently misses questions in a particular subject matter, like pharmacology or fundamentals. This suggests a learning gap that needs targeted remediation. Non-academic red flags. Academic struggles often show up alongside behavioral signals, missing class, lack of participation, or even signs of burnout. These are just a few of the important things to track and address to offer those support plans. Now let's discuss how to develop a remediation plan. We want to be purposeful and intentional. Start by helping students reflect on their exam performance. Which concepts did they understand and why? Where was the reading comprehension at levels? Did they misinterpret the question item? Review in small groups or one-on-one. One-on-one or small group remediation allows you to dive deeper into the student's thought and processes. It also creates a safe space for asking questions that may not be raised in class. Use active learning tools. Students don't learn by rereading notes alone. Encourage concept maps, clinical case walkthroughs, or even the student teaching back the concepts to you. And then monitor that progress and reassess. Set clear goals. You'll master the NCLEX categories by next week, and follow up on the short quizzes or discussions. Remediation is ongoing, not one and done. Test data not only shows us how each student is doing, it also reveals patterns across the group. Our goal is to respond accordingly and appropriately to both levels. We want to identify group trends. If several students are missing the same type of question, it might indicate an instructional gap or an unclear test item. This is a signal to reteach or review that content for the whole class. Spot individual struggles. At the same time, one student might be missing questions across multiple topics, again indicating a broader issue, perhaps with study habits, time management, and deep content comprehension. And tailor interventions. The power of test analysis lies in being targeted. Use your findings to decide if the solution should be a class-wide strategy, like a concept review, or a personalized plan with tutoring or remediation. One of the most powerful uses of test analysis is connecting assessment results directly back to your course objectives. This helps to ensure we're not just teaching content, but teaching what matters most. Link test items to objectives. Start by identifying which learning objectives align with missed questions. If students miss several questions tied to the same outcome, it suggests a gap in either instruction or learning. Evaluate outcome mastery. Ask yourself, did the students meet this objective? And if not, is the problem with the student, the instruction, or the test item itself? Reflect on that instruction or assessment. This is where we get honest. Was the content explicitly taught? Were there opportunities for the students to practice that concept? Did the assessment format fairly reflect how the content was delivered? To effectively address students' achievement challenges, we need to go beyond test scores and identify deeper systemic issues in our curriculum. This slide outlines key indicators that often reveal curriculum misalignment. Again, consistently low student performance across cohorts. First, repeated low scores across different student cohorts suggests that the problem lies not with a specific group of students, but with how and what is being taught. If the same grade level underperforms year after year, it's a strong sign that there's a curriculum gap or instructional breakdown. Inconsistent instructional practices. Next, even the best curriculum can fail if instructional practices vary widely between classrooms. Without a consistent approach to delivering content, with some students may be exposed to deeper, more effective learning experiences than others. Standardizing those best practices can help ensure equity and quality. Misalignment between instruction design. When instruction doesn't match what's being assessed, students are unprepared, not due to lack of ability, but due to mismatch in focus. For example, if assessments emphasize critical thinking, but instruction centered around memorization, we'll see underperformance, and that's not the student's fault. Fragmented scope and sequence. A poorly structured curriculum that skips or repeats content can confuse students. They may miss foundational skills or be bored by redundant instruction. Reviewing scope and sequence documents helps to detect and correct these instructional issues. And limited data to inform instruction. Lastly, when data isn't regularly reviewed or used to adapt instruction gaps, those gaps continue or persist undetected. Frequent formative assessments, along with thoughtful data analysis, are essential tools for identifying and closing those curriculum gaps. Identifying these gaps is the first step. The next step is to develop actionable solutions through collaborative curriculum mapping, targeted professional development, and data-driven decision-making. Now let's analyze some reports. Here's a report that was pulled from our Kaplan platform. Now, even if you're not using the Kaplan platform, you'll be able to pull data reports and analyze those reports from the platforms of which you're using. What I'm beginning with is a student report card. Now, hidden, the black bar over on the left-hand side is hiding all the student information, but we would have last name and first name along this particular black border here. You can see that this particular group of students took the MedSurg comprehensive test. You also see the fifth column over where I have some squares listed. This is showing the performance of the students. You see red flags, which I've boxed in, and this is showing a group of students who are below a threshold on the standardized assessments, which are ideally used as summative assessments in a MedSurg course. Again, we're doing a MedSurg comp. You see the number of points that were targeted for this particular test, and you also see a percentile rank. But just to the right of this arrow is the threshold for this particular test, which is a 72%. If this threshold or students score below that minimum score threshold, then they're flagged. Not only are they flagged, but faculty can see where they're living or falling within the percentile ranks, and students are able to see this on their end as well. So this particular student is scoring at a 37th percentile rank, and we have 44th percentile rank. Even down below, we have a 32nd percentile rank nationally. Over to the right-hand side, just within the student report card, we can see the depth of remediation. We not only see the test time and how much time that they took to take the test, but also we're capturing how much time that they're spending on remediation total and remediation per question. Not only do I recommend that you pull a student report card or look at that student performance data whenever you give an integrated test or one of your standardized assessments, I also encourage you to start trending across cohorts. So one of the reports that allows you to do this is a test result by question. Every time you give a standardized assessment, I encourage team leaders or curriculum leaders to start pulling a test result by question and do a deeper dive into that particular content. The test result by question takes the blueprint of this particular test, which again, I pulled the MedSurg comp just for the sake of demonstration. It gives every topic, the level of difficulty, the national norm by question in the third column, and then you're able to track and trend across cohorts of how they're doing. So as an example, I have red flagged Alzheimer's. It's a making nursing judgment. so it's higher level blooms. The national norm for this one question is a 70%, but consistently across 3 cohorts, then we're performing lower than. The same thing holds true for burn injury, understanding concepts. The national norm for this question is a 77. And again, it's a lower level blooms, and 3 cohorts in the past have been performing below that. So again, as we look at a med-surg comp, it's time when you look at a test result by question to start asking yourselves, where is it taught? How is it taught? What do I need to do differently? With the med-surg comp test, it's not just about what's taught in that final course, but more about where is it taught within the curriculum. So this is information and maybe an action plan that can be taken to your curriculum team, and you together can develop a plan and action plan moving forward. Another great report is a category comparison. Now you're just getting a little bit of a glimpse of the data within the category comparison with Kaplan. This report allows faculty to pull accreditation categories, client need categories, the client needs themselves, clinical concepts, cognitive domains, cognitive level, concepts, critical thinking, demographic information, level of difficulty, nursing process, CUSIN, specialty areas, and even systems, and so much more. So I could continue to scroll down on this particular area and get all of those categories of reports that you can follow. Then you're able to track and trend. Again, I've pulled multiple cohorts over time. You can see just under accreditation, I have first era at safety because consistently they're scoring a bit around the 50th percentile rank or 50th percentage there. And there's some of the lower performing areas on safety, which is the primary thing that NCLEX is testing us on. We want to make sure these students are able to go out and have safe practice with good clinical judgment. The same thing holds true when I look at the basic care and comfort. Oftentimes students forget those basics. And again, I'm seeing lower performing areas in the 40s on those particular areas. Now you would be able to track and trend these particular areas and work to analyze the reports that you're reviewing. Closing the loop is about completing the full cycle of continuous improvement. I've always been involved with continuous quality improvement, and we still have to be focused on that today. It begins with reflecting on the data. This includes digging into performance results and identifying what the numbers are really telling us. From there, we take informed action, whether it's changing how we teach a concept, revising a lesson, or offering student support. Then we reassess. This step is critical because we want to make certain that our actions are actually leading to improvement. Are we seeing measurable progress? And finally, share our findings with the entire team, and that collaborative effort, not collaboration, only strengthens the whole team as well as the outcomes. Key takeaways. Remember, test analysis isn't just an academic exercise. Test analysis helps us to fulfill our ultimate goal, improving student learning and program effectiveness. It's also a practical tool for driving student and progress or program success. You want to use your data proactively. Here are some references that I used within these particular slides, and I want to open the floor for questions at this point. Again, I appreciate you all joining, and again, just opening the floor for any questions you may have. Claudia, you may have been busy answering questions along the way as well.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I do not see any questions in the chat, but if there are any, we will be happy to entertain those questions now.
I hope you found this session helpful. Feel free to come off mute or ask your questions in the chat, and we're happy to help answer any questions. And this recording also will be available on the site as well.
Yes. To reiterate, I have posted the session evaluation link. Please take time to fill out the evaluation. Once you do that, you will be able to access a certificate of attendance. Thank you all for your time and attention today.
Thank you all for attending.
I do see a question. Let's see. Can you show us an easy way to find the category and questions you were just referring to?
Well, I think it would be dependent on what platform that you use. I was pulling from the Kaplan platform, so there's a student report card that you're able to pull, or a reporting suite, I should say, that allows faculty to pull student individual as well as cohort performance in a student report card. I also pulled a test result by question, was the second report that I pulled. And then there's a category comparison report, which was the third, all within the platform that Kaplan offers. If you're using Kaplan, your dedicated nurse consultant can help guide you in that process, and you have a dedicated nurse consultant to work with you that you can reach out to freely. But we're happy to help in those particular areas. But again, to reinforce, the reports that I shared from Kaplan was a student report card, a test result by question, and a category comparison, and they are titled accordingly within the Kaplan platform.
Wonderful. Jacqueline, I'd like to entertain your question as well. You are unmuted, Jacqueline. If you want to ask it live, you can, or you can type it in the questions.
While we're waiting on Jacqueline to join, your question was answered, so great. I'm seeing that in the chat. And Dawn
Wonderful.
also answered, should we be working with our Kaplan people to dig deeper into the data? Absolutely. Your Kaplan team, your dedicated nurse consultant can work with your entire faculty team, as well as individually, to dive deeper into these reports. And we can help with that, analyzing the reports and diving deeper into that data. But just given the test, the integrated test, using the integrated test for the summative assessments, it's not enough just to do that. We really need to dive deeper into the reports to see what it's showing you. Great question.
Wonderful, Dawn. Thank you for such an informative session today. I know the faculty will find that information very, very useful in their practice.
Thank you again. Thank you, Claudia, and thank you all for taking time to join. Please feel free to reach out to your dedicated nurse consultant, and we're happy to help support any way we can.